Hello 108 students, Mr. McCue here again. We are continuing our work on section 10.1 and we're going to focus here on the class notes associated with page 4. Okay, so we've been working with graphs and we've been doing parabolas. Going to work on example 2c, and now we're going to write the parabola x equals y squared. Now hopefully you remember from last chapter 9 that when the x is the output and the y is the input, that produces a parabola that opens sideways, or the axis of symmetry is horizontal. And now we're simply going to ask ourselves, is this a one-to-one function? And so we're going to go over here to step 1 and ask ourselves, does this pass the vertical line test? And we're doing this because we've got the graph going here. And a quick draw of the vertical line through the parabola illustrates the fact that the vertical line passes the parabola on the graph at two different spots, and therefore right off the bat it fails the vertical line test, and therefore it is not a function. So parabolas can or cannot be a function based on how it's written. If it's x equals, it will not be a function. If it's y equals x squared, then that is a function. Okay, so with that said, we're done. You don't have to do any more, but I just want to highlight here that it fails and you're done. If you would draw the horizontal line test, you might convince yourself that it's a one-to-one, but that's wrong logic because it's not a function first. Now, even though it only passes the parabola at one point through here, you do not call this a one-to-one function. It first must always pass the vertical line test to be a function, and also pass the horizontal line test. So this fails, and so you do not have a function. Okay, just kind of highlighting that here on these problems here. And next, some of the next homework type of problems you might have deal with objective 3 on our class notes here, and our goal is to find the f-1 or inverse function. And before you start that process, you have to look at the function and ask yourself, is it a one-to-one function? Okay, now if it is a one-to-one function, an example of that will be linear equations always are, parabolas never are. Y equals x to the third. A cubic function turns out to be a one-to-one, and we'll discuss that later on here. But on the next page, I just want to give you up there, just give you a heads up that a cubic function is a one-to-one. Okay, so the steps that you're going to do here, you're going to come down and simply take the function, the original function, interchange the x and y variables in the equation. Next step, you're going to go ahead and solve and isolate the y variable. And once you've done that, you're going to replace the y with the notation of f-1 of x. You're going to replace it with that, and then that's going to be your inverse function. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an example here to help everybody. If you look at example 3a on my notes here, we'll go ahead and work through this step real fast. Take the initial function, f of x equals 2x plus 5. You know it's a linear equation. Again, we've talked about this many times, but because you've got your exponent with the variable 1, your exponent with the variable x is 1, therefore defining as linear. So since it's a linear function, it passes both the vertical and the horizontal line test. Must be a one-to-one function. If you do not have a one-to-one function, you cannot write the inverse function. Okay, so next, step number 1, replace x with the y variable. Okay, step number 2, interchange or swap the x and y variables, so y becomes an x becomes a y. And now simply isolate the y variable. So I minus 5 on both sides of the equation, giving us x minus 5 equals 2y, divided by 2 on both sides of the equation, and you're left with x minus 5 divided by 2 equals y. Your last step is to go ahead and replace y with our f inverse function here, notation. Okay, so there you go. There's your answer, x minus 5 divided by 2, and that's all you have to do in those problems. Okay, so we're doing good here, and you might get some homework problems that, such as example 3b, you come over and see y equals x squared plus 2. Okay, your first question is this a one-to-one function? And you don't have to go any farther than realizing that you've got an exponent of 2, thus causing you to have a quadratic equation. It's going to be a parabola, and all parabolas are not one-to-one functions, as discussed before in the previous page. Therefore, you stop, don't have to do any work, and say it is not a one-to-one function, therefore you cannot make the inverse. Okay, nice easy problems when you get those. Okay, hey, kind of a short page here, but we're moving along. We're wrapping up page 4, and we're going to go ahead and I'll see you on page 5, and we'll talk about that cubic function. Okay, see you then.